Wednesday, we are in Greensboro. You know what today is. Today is the 28th of August. 50 years ago, we held the March on Washington in Washington, D.C. I left Savannah, Georgia on a chartered train, not a bus, on a chartered train, which came from Jacksonville, Florida, stopped in Savannah, Macon, Georgia, and then on to D.C. I, like most of the young people who are out here today, and those of the youth who were there then, was starry-eyed because I thought this was the biggest thing that had ever happened to me and probably would be the biggest thing that would ever happen, to be at the March on Washington. You have to understand, we weren't having the big marches then as we're having now. And so I was excited because I was looking forward to seeing Roy Wilkins of the NAACP, who would march with us in Savannah, looking forward to seeing Martin Luther King Jr., who would march with us in Savannah, and in fact, we had an 18-month boycott of downtown in Savannah. So we were pretty hot in Savannah and excited about being in D.C. Well, 2 months ago, I had the opportunity to go to Jackson, Mississippi, as we commemorated 50 years since Medgar Evers, who was the executive director of the NAACP, was assassinated. You know the name. Medgar Evers was working on voter registration, ironically, that night. He'd been to a great rally, brought T-shirts home, and as he drove up into his yard, his children and wife were sitting in the living room. Marilyn Evers told us that day in Jackson that the children said, "Oh good, Dad is home." And she got up to go to the door, only to hear a shot ring out. And as she opened the door, there she saw Medgar lying in his own blood, having been shot and subsequently died an hour later as a result of his only trying to get black people registered to vote. Now, Mississippi was a pretty horrible place at that time and might not be too much better now. But I understand that North Carolina is a little bit worse. At that same time in Jackson, I had the opportunity to meet the wife of the late Vernon Dahmer. Vernon Dahmer was also president of the NAACP branch in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Well, Vernon Dahmer had tried to register African Americans to vote also. And just so that you know the kinds of things that African Americans had to do at that time, they asked the question, how many bubbles are there in a bar of soap? And of course, it doesn't matter whether you graduated from UNCG, A&T, or Bennett College, you don't know the answer. But African Americans were expected to answer that question. They also had to recite the preamble to the Constitution. I don't need to tell you that those to whom they had to recite that preamble didn't know it themselves, but they had to do it. Well, I came to North Carolina thinking I had come to a free state. And only a few years later, 2013, we stand here today because North Carolina has stooped to the level that we never would have expected. Our General Assembly has taken us back 50 years with immoral voter laws. And we're calling them immoral because God doesn't like ugly. And that's certainly an ugly thing. Immoral because people like Medgar Evers laid their bodies down as bridges that we might walk across in order to register to vote. And now it's being taken away. Immoral because thousands of our young men and women have given their lives in the military trying to make countries free for others to be able to vote, only to return to North Carolina and their military ID is not accepted. It's immoral because these extremists have sought to deprive citizens of the state of the right to vote without an identification. Now, it can't be just any identification. It has to be a state-issued identification issued at Department of Motor Vehicles. So then, if you're a student at a state-supported school, although the state supports those schools, they will not allow you as a student to use that ID in order to register to vote. Think about it. How crazy can that be? This is a state-supported school that entrusts their students to be educated in these institutions, yet they will not allow those same institutions to issue a voter ID. That's just crazy. I don't know any other way to put it. Students seniors who are in their 80s and 90s, some have never had a birth certificate. Yet they have to go and find something in order to identify themselves in order to register to vote here in North Carolina. They cut early voting from 2 weeks to 1 week. You think about it. 70% of the people who voted in the last election voted doing early voting. So there's something wrong about that, because you know they don't want us to vote. It's just that simple. They eliminated same-day registration. You know who registers on the same day as the election. Those of us who see people going to the polls and to think, well, that might be something I want to do. And so they go to register to vote. Well, they can't do that anymore. The same people who took moral actions before refusing to expand Medicaid to over 500,000 people in the state. Think about it. 500,000 people who need health care will not receive it because of our illustrious General Assembly. Clinics are closing across the state, and just around the corner from here, one is closing in Greensboro. You know the story. Well, the governor, who is real tight with his money, doesn't want to give teachers a raise, but he gave 2 of his employees who just graduated from college, who weren't qualified for the jobs that they held. He gave them $20,000 and $27,000 increases. And so here you have 2 unqualified young college graduates for the job that they were holding, who now are serving in state government, making $85,000 and $87,000 a year. That's just immoral. We must say no. We must say no more. We must say we won't go back. Dr. King told us to go back to our communities and work. Today, 50 years later, I challenge you. Go back to Northwest Greensboro. Go back to Southeast Greensboro. Go back to High Point. Go back to Asheboro. Go back to Rockingham County. Go back to wherever you came from and work. Now somebody said, what should I do? It's real easy. Go back and get some voter registration forms and go door to door and register the people in your community that are not registered to vote. And don't stop there. You have the newspapers with the voting records of all of our legislators. Some of them have records that give them 0. And you know when you get a 0 in school, that means you need to come home because you're not doing anything. So you need to tell them, no longer will we accept this. We also need to tell the students at Appalachian State, don't let them stop you from voting. Vote if you have to walk. Vote if you have to crawl. Any way you have to get out, vote. And then we have to tell the students at Elizabeth City State University, don't let them stop you from voting.
That's right.
Run your candidate for city council. Serve the community. That's what we need you to do when you leave here. Thank you and God bless you.